Husband divorced me with pre-prepared papers. When I found out I was infertile, then my sister got pregnant with his baby while comforting me, but when DNA tests proved he wasn't the father, he begged me to come back. The doctor said the word infertile, and my husband pulled divorce papers out of his briefcase before we even left the parking lot. Not from his car, from his briefcase. Like he'd packed them that morning next to his laptop and protein bar. I need a family, he said, not looking at me. I've always needed a family. This changes everything. I sat in the passenger seat staring at the manila envelope while my whole world caved in. The ink on the papers was dry. The tabs were already marked with little colored flags showing me where to sign. A lawyer had prepared these recently, which meant he'd consulted a divorce attorney before we even got my test results. How long have you had these? My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. That doesn't matter. How long, Arlo? He finally looked at me. 2 weeks. The first test came back abnormal and I wanted to be prepared. Prepared. Like I was a weather forecast he'd checked before deciding whether to bring an umbrella. I signed the papers that night because I couldn't breathe in the same house as him. My sister Gemma showed up the next morning with grocery bags and red eyes. She moved into my spare bedroom and held me while I cried for 3 straight days. She cooked meals I couldn't eat and ran baths I couldn't feel and talked me through the darkest thoughts I'd ever had. She was my anchor. 6 weeks later, Gemma sat me down and told me she was pregnant. The air left my lungs so fast I heard it. Before you say anything, she started, hands shaking. It happened once, one night. He came over to pick up the last of your things and I was drinking and he was crying and it just happened. I stared at her, my sister, the person who'd been sleeping 10 feet from me while I grieved, who'd wiped my tears and told me I was enough, had slept with my ex-husband. When? I whispered. 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago, I was on her shoulder sobbing about how broken I felt. She'd held my hand and told me Arlo was garbage. Then she'd slept with him while I was knocked out on the anxiety medication she'd watched me take. I told her to get out of my apartment. She cried and begged, but I couldn't even look at her face without seeing his. My parents tried to mediate. She made a mistake, my mom pleaded. She's carrying your niece or nephew. She's carrying my ex-husband's baby, I corrected, while pretending to save me from him. 3 months of silence followed. I blocked Gemma. I blocked Arlo. I went to therapy twice a week and slowly started rebuilding something that resembled a life. Then Arlo showed up at my door unannounced. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles, clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them. The baby isn't mine, he said. I leaned against the doorframe. What? Gemma's baby. I got a prenatal DNA test. It's not mine. He was shaking. She lied about it being mine so I'd stay. She wanted the life you had. The house, the money, the stability. She planned the whole thing. I felt my jaw clench. You think that matters to me? She was already pregnant when we slept together. The timeline doesn't match. She got pregnant by someone else and used me as a cover story. He stepped closer. I made the worst mistake of my life leaving you. The papers, the divorce, all of it. I was scared and stupid and I threw away the only person who ever actually loved me. You packed divorce papers in your briefcase, Arlo, like a lunch. I know how that looked. It looked like you'd been waiting for an excuse to leave and my broken body gave you one. His face crumbled. Please, I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. We can adopt, we can do surrogacy. I don't care about having biological kids anymore. I just want you. I looked at him standing there desperate and pathetic, and I felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not satisfaction, just nothing. You wanted a family so badly you left me in a parking lot with pre-signed divorce papers, I said calmly. Now you want me back because the backup plan fell through. I'm not your first choice. I'm your only option, and I deserve to be someone's first choice. He started crying, actual tears running down his face. You are my first choice. You always were. Then why did you have a plan B in your briefcase? He couldn't answer. I closed the door slowly while he stood there. My phone buzzed an hour later. Gemma, a text that said, he knows about the baby. I'm sorry for everything. Can we please talk? I blocked the number and went back to the book I'd been reading. For the first time in months, the silence in my apartment didn't feel lonely. It felt like mine. I caught my husband having an affair with one of our good friends, and I don't know how to move on. I found out on a Wednesday, not because he confessed or someone told me. I found out because he left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while he went to grab our daughter from daycare. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the recipe he'd bookmarked for dinner. The browser had 2 tabs open. One was the recipe. The other was a thread of messages with Brianne, our friend Brianne, the woman who came to our house every other Friday for game night with her husband, the woman who held my daughter at her baptism, the woman I'd cried to 3 months ago when I thought my marriage was falling apart because my husband seemed distant. She'd rubbed my back and told me all marriages go through rough patches. The messages went back 7 months. 7 months of I miss you, and last night was incredible, and she doesn't suspect anything. My hands went numb. I scrolled through hundreds of messages standing in my own kitchen where he'd kissed me goodbye that morning. There were photos, details, plans. They'd been meeting at a hotel near her office every Tuesday while I was at work, and her husband coached their son's soccer practice. He told me Tuesdays were late meeting days. I'd packed him extra snacks for those meetings. I closed the laptop and sat on the kitchen floor for 40 minutes. I didn't cry. I just stared at the refrigerator covered in our daughter's drawings, and a photo from the beach last summer where we all looked happy. When he walked in carrying our daughter on his hip, I watched his face for any sign he knew. Nothing. He smiled, set her down, asked what was for dinner. I said chicken. He said great. He kissed my forehead on his way to change, and I stood completely still because if I moved, I would shatter into pieces too small to reassemble. That night, I lay next to him while he slept and stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the last 7 months. Every time he said he loved me. Every time he held my hand at dinner. Every Tuesday he walked out with the lunch I packed and drove to a hotel to be with her. The next morning, I called in sick and drove to Brianne's house. Her husband answered, confused to see me at 9 on a Thursday. Is Brianne home? She's at work. Everything okay? I looked at this man who had no idea his wife was sleeping with my husband every Tuesday while he ran soccer drills with their son. No, I said, it's not. I told him everything, showed him the screenshots I'd taken. He sat on his front steps and didn't speak for 5 minutes. Then he asked me to leave because he needed to think. My husband came home at 6 like always, smiling, holding takeout. Got your favorite. Thai place on 5th. I know about Brianne. The bag hit the floor. Pad Thai splattered across the tiles. His face went through every stage of panic in 3 seconds. Denial, calculation, bargaining, all flickering behind his eyes as he tried to figure out how much I knew. What are you talking about? 7 months, every Tuesday. The hotel near her office. I read everything. His shoulders dropped. He didn't deny it. Didn't apologize either. Just stood there in the spilled food looking at me like I'd ruined something. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said. We were just friends and it it became something else. Something else. For 7 months. I was going to end it. When? He couldn't answer that. I told him to leave. He argued it was his house too. I said he could have the house. I'd take our daughter and stay with my sister. He looked relieved, which told me everything about his priorities. I packed bags while he stood in the doorway watching. He tried to hug me on my way out, and I stepped around him like he was furniture. My sister held me while I finally cried. 3 days of tears came out in one night. My daughter kept asking where daddy was, and each time felt like someone pressing on a bruise that wouldn't heal. Brianne called twice. I didn't answer. She texted, "I'm so sorry. It meant nothing." 7 months of nothing. Every Tuesday for 7 months of absolutely nothing. Her husband filed for divorce the following week. I haven't filed yet because I can't bring myself to make it real. My husband sends flowers every day, writes letters I don't open, texts me paragraphs about spending his life making it up to me. But every time I close my eyes, I see those messages. I see the photos. I see the timeline of lies laid over the timeline of our life together like a transparency. I don't know how to move on because moving on means accepting that the person I trusted most looked me in the eyes every single day for 7 months and chose to keep lying. And the worst part is that some mornings I still reach for his side of the bed before I remember he's not supposed to be there anymore.